Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negro. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or watching this channel for the first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense because here on this platform, we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions, but not everyone uses logic. So, for that reason, it is called Uncommon Sense. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Also, the subscriber mode has been enabled. What does that mean? That means that if you're not a subscriber and if you wish to enter a comment in the chat, you need to subscribe to the channel. First of all, I just want to give a huge shout out to all those who have already subscribed to the channel, whether it be from the beginning or just recently. I really, truly appreciate all the love and support all of you have given me. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I really appreciate all the love and support all of you have given me. And I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who allow me to enter into your devices. So, what I'm going to ask you to do is the following. If you have not done so, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification to all. So, therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. Okay? So, the topic for tonight is how to deal with grief. Okay? I see we have a comment already. Just give me a moment. Excuse me. Yes, accepting the pain and trying to be stronger than pain helps. The weed alcohol temporary. You really need to accept the sadness and let go so it doesn't control you. Good evening, USA. Thank you very much. What we're gonna be doing is we're gonna try to learn how to deal with grief in constructive ways. Okay, people have dealt with grief in many ways and shapes and forms. Okay, so by here we try to find logical solutions. That is the nature of our channel. Just give me a moment. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a moment of in my words. So what's on my mind tonight other than the main topic? Of course, tomorrow is the first day of school for nearly 1 million school-age children. Of course, for many students or children, this is a happy time because they get to be with their own peers, they get to spend time, they get to learn and study, and what have you. For some children, it's not such a happy time because it's the end of summer vacation. Now, one thing it does make it a challenge is that the 19,000 children of the so-called migrants, and they have their own issues, okay? Making sure that they're properly vaccinated, making sure that they're healthy, making sure that they don't do anything to spread COVID-19, which unfortunately it's the cases are coming up again. I think part of it has to do with the fact that people are getting sick and tired of this health crisis. So some people are deciding to get careless. What I will say is the following. This is true whether it be COVID related or what have you. If you don't feel well, if you have symptoms of an illness, do not go to work, do not go to school, go to a doctor and have an examination to make sure that you are okay. Okay. Another thing that we bear in mind is the change of seasons. Okay, technically we're still in summer. Okay, particularly not today, where temperature reached the god awful 90s. Of course, people know that I am not a big fan of heat, but we have to deal with at least one more day of this high humidity. So I just want to ask everyone out there, um, please be mindful of your loved ones that are more vulnerable to the heat, mainly the elderly and children who are ill due to medical conditions. So I'm going to ask you, if you know an elderly person that's affected by the heat, please try to make some contact with them, tend to their needs, and if you really want to do a good deed, do some errands for them, like pick up groceries, take the laundry out, or take out the garbage, so they don't have to do it. Okay, and expose themselves to this high humidity. Okay, so and one more thing that I need to get off my chest. As I stated, I do feel, my heart does bleed for these migrants because they're coming here, many of them because they want to escape whatever it is they're escaping. The problem is, they need to know how to conduct themselves here in the United States. This is not their country of origin. Okay, what might be acceptable in their countries is not acceptable here in the United States. I'll give you a perfect example. In some countries, you can get certain medication just simply not asking for it. Here, if it's not over the counter, you need a prescription, and you need a prescription from a physician, or else the pharmacist would not give you the medication that you need. So, with that being said, um, oh, one more thing. Just as a reminder that my schedule is now going to be Monday, no, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and Friday night. As far as the times is concerned, it will be any train between 8 and 9 p.m. unless I state otherwise. But I think, for at least for the time being, we're going to stick with a Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and Friday night. Okay. Um, and we shall see. And also, I do understand that, you know, my friend Gigi and Multi, they have streams coming up. I think Multi has a stream tomorrow night at 11:30 p.m. So I ask you to please social love, catch your stream, whether it'll be live on the playback. Gigi's going to be interviewing Caesar Cannon on Friday night. So I'm going to ask that you please check out her stream as she interviews Caesar Cannon, which I believe, if memory does not fail me, he's one of the founders of the Golden Spear. Okay. And I believe it will be an opportunity for us to ask questions, um, to get to know him and get to know regarding people like him. So, with that being said, we're going to get into the main topic. So, the topic for tonight is, how to how to deal with grief. Now, actually, in all fairness, this is a topic that I did discuss, unless my memory fails me, it was either last year. Yeah, I think it was last year. Okay. Now, the reason why I decided to discuss the topic again, because the fact of the matter is, all of us, at some point or another, will experience the love of a loved one, or they will experience grief. Okay. Um, we can experience grief in many ways, shapes, and forms. One of the more common ways is through the death of a loved one. Okay. And let me just give you the definition of the word grief. It is a noun which is a deep sorrow, especially that caused by someone's death. Okay. And it could be anyone. It could be a loved one, it could be a close friend, or what have you. Or it could be the death of something meaningful, like a relationship, or the death of a friendship. Okay. At times we could have, okay, at times we're going to be in romantic relationship where it ends and then we experience grief in that way. Okay. Now another definition, actually I'm just going to state, we share what's listed in helpguide.org. Grief is a natural response to loss. It is the emotional suffering you feel when something or someone you love is taken away. Now, let me just give you my own personal situation. I have unfortunately had attended many funerals in my immediate family. Okay, just to give you an idea, I have experienced the loss of both my parents, three of my male siblings, uh, my oldest sister, and a grandnephew at 22 years old. And what made the circumstances regarding his loss ever so sad, he was only 22 years old when he was killed in an automobile accident by someone that was driving while intoxicated. Now, I've mentioned this before, but the year 2020 was a particularly rough year, not just for me, but for millions of other people around the world. It, it was a sad loss for me because the January of that year, I lost my oldest sister the stage for lung cancer. Okay. Then 6 months later, my mother passed away. Um, she was hospitalized due to poor circulation in her left foot, and unfortunately, she had to be amputated not once but twice because the skin, no, the part of the limbs basically was dead. After she had her two amputations, my mother had a stroke and she became into a vegetative state, which unfortunately she never um, got out of. And she died at home surrounded by her children and her grandchildren and great grandchildren. Okay. Um, the fact of the matter is, many people, especially in 2020, have lost loved ones. Many due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and others, unfortunately, through acts of violence. So 2020 was a very scary year. And what made it worse is that families could not gather in large groups to provide moral support to each other. Okay, so that made it worse. First of all, you dealt with the loss of a loved one, and then not being able to meet with your own immediate family in an attempt to reduce the spread of COVID 19. Okay. So basically, that was a double whammy. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is just give me a moment. So I'm going to share something. Okay, that's not what. Just give me a moment. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share an article that I came across. Oh, I just want to let everybody know that the link to join the panel has been pinned. So if anyone wishes to join the panel to express their point of view regarding the subject, they can. Okay. Now, if people feel comfortable, may want to share their own life experiences, how to deal with grief. If they choose not to, it's understandable. Here we do not compel people to do anything, and with some people, the memories are still fresh and the wounds are still deep. So it may be hard for some people to express their point of view when it comes to grief. So what I'm going to do is share my screen. Hopefully, okay. Okay. Now I came across this article on a website called helpguide.org, and it has to do with coping with grief and loss. Okay. Whatever type of loss you suffer, there is no right or wrong way to grieve. But by understanding the stages and the type of grief, you can find healthier ways to cope. Grief is a natural response to loss. It is the emotional suffering you feel when something or someone you love is taken away. Often, the pain of a loss can be overwhelming. You may experience all kinds of difficult and unexpected emotions, from shock or anger to disbelief, guilt, and profound sadness. The pain of grief can also disrupt your physical health, making it difficult to sleep, eat, or even think straight. These are normal reactions to loss, and the more significant the loss, the more intense the grief will be. Jesus. Coping with the loss of someone or something you love is one of life's biggest challenges. You may associate grieving with the death of a loved one, which is often caused the most intense type of grief, but any loss can be cause grief, including the following. So I'm just going to state number one, divorce or relationship breakup. Number two, loss of health. Number three, losing a job. Number four, loss of financial stability. Number five, a miscarriage. Number six, retirement. Number seven, death of a pet. Number eight, loss of a cherished dream. Number nine, a loved one's serious illness. Number 10, loss of a friendship. Number 11, the loss of safety after a trauma. And number 12, selling the family home. Even subtle losses in life can trigger a sense of grief. For example, you might grieve after moving away from home, graduating from college, or changing jobs. Whatever your loss, it's personal to you, so don't feel shame about how you feel or believe that it's only appropriate to grieve for certain things. If a person, animal, relationship, or situation was significant to you, it's noble to grieve the loss you're experiencing. Whatever the cause of your grief, though, there are healthy ways to cope with the pain that, in time, can ease your sadness and help you to come to terms with your loss. Find something, new meaning, and eventually move on with your life. So now we're going to deal with the grief of losing a loved one. Just try to situate myself so I'll be more comfortable. Okay. Whether it's a close friend, spouse, partner, parent, child, or other relative, few things are as painful as losing someone you love. After such a significant loss, life never seem quite the same again. But in time, you can ease yourself, start to look to the future, and eventually come to terms with your loss. And here it seeks an article, bereavement, grieving the loss of a loved one. Now we're going to talk about the grieving process. Grieving is a highly individual experience. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. How you grieve depends on many factors, including your personality and coping style, your life experience, your faith, and how significant the loss was to you. Inevitably, the grieving process takes time. Healing happens gradually. It cannot be forced or hurried, and there's still no normal timetable for grieving. Some people start to feel better in weeks or months. For others, the grief process is measured in years. Whatever is your grief experience, it's important to be patient with yourself and allow the process to naturally unfold. Now, here are some myths and facts regarding grieving. The first myth: the pain will go away faster if you ignore it. That's a myth. Fact: trying to ignore your pain or keep it from surfacing will only make it worse in the long run. For real healing, it is necessary to face your grief and actually deal with it. Myth: it's important to be strong in the face of loss. Fact: feeling sad, frightened, or lonely is a normal reaction to loss. Crying doesn't mean you're weak. You don't need to protect your family or friends by putting on a brave front. Showing your true feelings can help them and help you. Now, here's another myth. If you don't cry, it means you aren't sorry about the loss. Like crying is a normal response to sadness, but it's not the only one. Those who don't cry may feel the pain just as deeply as others. They may simply have other ways of showing it. Myth: grieving shouldn't last a year. Fact: there is no specific time frame for grieving. How long it takes differs from person to person. That is very true. Good evening, Don Armando. Thank you very much for stopping by. The topic for tonight is how to deal with grief. And I think that's something that you can identify with knowing your situation and the loss of loved ones that you had done. Now, here's another myth: moving on with life means forgetting about your loss. Fact: moving on means you accepted your loss, but that's not the same as forgetting. You can move on with your life and keep the memory of someone or something you lost. It's an important part of you. In fact, as we move through life, these memories can become more and more integral to the family, defining the people. Yes, that's true. I believe that you can. Um, the link is there if you wish to join the panel. Okay, let me just check and see. This, okay, okay. Now we're going to be discussing how to deal with the grieving process. Okay, and that's something that we all are going to go through. Okay, in fact, last year, okay, no problem, no problem. And maybe you can catch the rest of the stream on the playback. Okay, so as I was saying, last year I did a stream regarding what not to say to a person that's grieving, and I'm gonna say this: we make mistakes. It's not with the intention to harm people. We try to console them because sometimes we don't always know what to say. So when grieving a loss is inevitable, while grieving the loss in an integral part of life, there are ways to help cope with the pain, come to terms with your grief, and eventually find a way to pick up the pieces and move on with your life. And these are things. Okay. These are things that will help us. Number one, acknowledge your pain. That's very important. Acknowledge the fact that you are hurt because you are grieving, whether it be because you lost a family member or a relationship or a partner. Accept that grief can trigger many different and unexpected emotions. Understand that your grieving process will be unique to you. Okay. And that's very important because everybody deals with grief differently. Okay. And I think one thing we must bear in mind there is no right way nor wrong way to grieve. Seek face to face support from the people who care about you. Now, this is very important because sometimes people, what they will do to deal with the loss, they'll tend to isolate themselves. Okay. Um, I would suggest that you don't do that. It's time like these that you try to seek, um, a, interaction with a close family member, a friend, or a spouse that can help you deal with your loss. Support yourself emotionally by taking care of yourself physically. Now, this is very important because sometimes we become so overwhelmed with the grief that we neglect taking care of ourselves. And in effect, our bodies suffer as well. Okay. Another, recognize the difference between grief and depression. Okay. Now, I covered depression um, on my last stream. I'm going to ask you if you have not done so, check that out. And I mean, grief is you dealing with a loss of someone. And the healing process varies from person to person. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss the stages of grief. Now, some people say the five stages of grief, other people say seven. In this example, it's going to be five. In 1969, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross introduced what become known as the five stages of grief. These stages of grief are based on her studies of the feelings of patients facing terminal illness, but many people have generalized them to other types of negative life changes and losses, such as the death of a loved one or of a breakup. So there are the five stages of grief are as follows: denial, this can't be happening to me; anger, why is this happening? Who is to blame? Bargaining, make this not happen, and in return I will, whatever. Depression, I'm too sad to do anything. And acceptance, I'm at peace with what happened. If you experience any of these emotions following along, it may help to know that your reaction is natural and that you'll heal in time. However, not everyone grieves go through these stages, and that's okay. Contrary to popular belief, you don't have to go through each stage in order to heal. In fact, some people resolve their grief without going through any of these stages. And if you do go through these stages of grief, you probably won't experience them in a neat sequential order. So don't worry about what you should be feeling or which stage you're supposed to be in. Uh, Kubler-Ross herself never intended for these stages to be a rigid framework that applies to everyone who mourns. In her last book before her death in 2004, she said of the five stages of grief, they were never meant to help tuck messy emotions into neat packages. They are responses to loss that many people have, but there is not a typical response to loss, as there's no typical loss. Our grieving is as individual as our lives. Now, here's interesting: grief can be a roller coaster. Instead of a series of stages, we might also think of the grieving process as a roller coaster for our ups and downs, highs and lows. Like many roller coasters, the ride tends to be rougher in the beginning, the lows may be deeper and longer. The difficult periods should become less intense and shorter as time goes by, but it takes time to work through a loss. Even years after a loss, especially at special events such as family wedding or the birth of a child, we may experience a strong emotional stance. That's true. I can just imagine. Um, should I actually do get married? One of the things that's going to be very rough is the mother-son dance, being that my mother has passed away 2 years ago. So that's going to be like a reminder of the fact that my mom is not physically present. Okay, but we will continue. So now we're going to deal with the symptoms of grief. While loss affects people in different ways, many of us experience the following symptoms when we are grieving. Just remember that almost everything that you experience in early stages of grief is normal, including feeling that you're going crazy, feeling like you're in a bad dream, or questioning your religious or spiritual beliefs. This happens with some people. I have been fortunate that I did not experience questioning my faith. In fact, if anything, it was a source of comfort, particularly in the aftermath of my mother's passing. And now we're going to deal with the symptoms, the emotional symptoms of grief. Okay? Shock or disbelief. Right after a loss, it can be hard to accept what happened. You may feel numb, have trouble believing that the loss has really happened, or even deny the truth. If a pet or someone you love has died, for example, you may keep expecting them to show up even though you know that they're gone. Sadness. Profound sadness is probably the most universal experience symptom of grief. Grief, you may have feelings of emptiness, despair, yearning, or deep loneliness. You also cry or feel a lot of feel emotionally unstable. The Christmas after my mother passed away was very hard because I would spend used to spend Christmas Eve with my mom. I did it so she wouldn't have to spend it alone. And I actually spent Christmas Eve, part of Christmas Eve, alone in my apartment. Um, and the first year, it was very difficult for me. And again, it was during the pandemic. Sadness, profound sadness is probably the most universal experience symptom of grief. Okay, you may have feeling. Okay, I think I already read this. Okay. Guilt. You may regret or feel guilty about the things you did or didn't say or do. You may also feel guilty about certain feelings. Feeling relief when a person died after a long, difficult illness, for example. You may even feel guilty for not doing more to prevent your loss, even if it was completely out of your hands. Sometimes we can, um, you know, um, punish ourselves thinking, well, I should have done this, I should have done that, not realizing that it wouldn't make much of a difference. And when it's a person's time to die, it is that person's time to die. Nothing that you can say or do will alter that. Okay? One thing we have to bear in mind that the most healthy people um, will live to be 70 or 80 years old. My mother passed away at 86. My father passed away at 83. So both my parents had long lives. Okay. Fear. A significant loss contribute a host of worries and fears. If you lost your partner, your job, or your home, for example, you might feel anxious, helpless, or insecure about your future. You may even have panic attacks. The death of a loved one contributes fears about your own mortality or facing life without that person and the responsibility that you now face unknown. That could be difficult. Okay. Particularly if you've been with that person that passed away for a significant period of time. Now we're going to be dealing with anger. Even though the loss was nobody's fault, you may feel angry and resentful. If you lost a loved one, you may be angry with yourself, God, or the doctor, or even the person who died for abandoning you. You may feel the need to blame someone for the injustice that has been done to you. I mean, it's things that kind of happen. And sometimes we can put the blame on other people or even ourselves. So now we're going to be dealing with the physical symptoms of grief. We often think of grief as strictly an emotional process, but grief often involves physical problems, including fatigue, nausea, lowered immunity, weight loss or gain, aches and pains, insomnia. Okay. Now we're going to be discussing the different types of grief. Since the experience of grieving following the loss of someone or something important to you tends to be unique to you, it's difficult to label any type of grief as either normal or abnormal. However, the types of grief that fall outside the expected symptoms and reactions described above. They include anticipatory grief. As the name suggests, anticipatory grief develops before a significant loss occurs rather than after. If the loved one is terminally ill, for example, you have an aging pet, or you know that your retirement or job loss is imminent, you may start grieving the loss before it is fully unfolded. A conventional grief, anticipatory grief, can involve a mix of confusing emotions, particularly anger. Some people even equate it to giving up hope and refuse to show themselves to grieve before their loss has occurred. However, anticipatory grief can also give you a chance to prepare for your loss, resolve any unfinished business, or say your goodbyes, for example. So now we're going to be talking about disenfranchised grief. Disenfranchised grief can occur when your loss is devalued, stigmatized, or cannot be openly mourned. Some people may minimize the loss of a job, a pet, or a friendship. For example, something that's not worth grieving over. You may feel stigmatized if you suffer a miscarriage or loss of a loved one to suicide. Disenfranchised grief can also occur when your relationship to a deceased is not recognized. Some people may consider it inappropriate to grieve at work for a colleague, classmate, or neighbor. For example, as a close friend or a same-sex partner, you may have be denied the same sympathy and understanding as a blood relative. This can make it even worse, more difficult to come to terms with your loss and navigate the grieving process. Now we're going to be discussing complicated grief. The pain of a significant loss may never completely disappear, but it should be eased up over time. When it doesn't, it keeps you from resuming your daily life and relationship and may be a sign of complicated grief. Complicated grief usually arises from the death of a loved one where the loss has left you stuck in the state of bereavement. You may be unable to accept your loved one has gone, search for them in familiar places, experience intense longing, or even feel that life isn't worth living. If you experience complicated grief and the pain from your loss remains unresolved, it's important to reach out to support and take the steps that will enable you to heal. Now we're going to be dealing with seeking support for grief and loss. The pain of grief can often cause you to want to withdraw from others and retreat into your shell. But having the face-to-face support of other people is vital to healing from loss. Even if you're not comfortable talking about your feelings under normal circumstances, it's important to express them when you are grieving. While sharing your loss can make the burden of grief easier to carry, that doesn't mean that every time you interact with friends and family, you need to talk with them about your loss. Comfort can also come with just being around others who care about you. The key is not to isolate yourself. And this is something that's very important because, truthfully, some people deal with the loss of a loved one by withdrawal. Okay. Turn to friends and family members. Now that the time to lean on the people who care about you, even if you take pride of being strong and self-sufficient. Rather than avoiding them, draw friends and loved ones close, spend time together face to face, and accept the assistance that they offer. Often people want to help but don't know how. So they tell you what you need or whether you need a shoulder to cry on or listen ear or just someone to hang out with. If you don't feel like you have anyone that can help regularly connect with person, it's never too late to build friendships. Except that many people feel awkward when trying to comfort someone who's grieving. Grief can be confusing, sometimes frightening emotion for many people, especially if they have not experienced similar loss themselves. They may feel insecure about how to comfort you and even saying or doing the wrong things. But you don't use that as an excuse to retreat into your shell and avoid social contact. If a friend or a loved one reaches out to you, it's because they care. That's true. That's very true. And there's no need to be constantly talking about the same person that passed away. Okay, someone passed away. It is unfortunate. My heart goes out to the family. Okay, and may they find one that was guilty in what happened. But again, um, we're not going to go into deep psychotherapy because it's not the correct environment. Okay. Grow comfort from your faith. If you follow a religious tradition, embrace the comfort of mourning. Its mourning rituals can provide. Spiritual activities that are meaningful in your life, such as praying, meditation, and going to church, can offer solace. If you're questioning your faith in the wake of the loss, talk to a clergy member or others in your religious community. There's always going to be some doubt after the loss of a loved one, whether it be any of the adults, or any of the children. The key is thus try to remain calm, and if you do have a faith system, use it. Okay. Join a support group. Grief can feel very lonely, even when you have loved ones around. Sharing yourself with others who have experienced similar losses can help. To find a bereavement support group, contact local hospitals, hospice, funeral homes, and constant settle. See the links below. Okay, there are many support groups, many for those who have lost loved ones. Okay, there's also I apologize. I didn't realize I was back out. Okay. So let me just. I mean, things like that happen. We have technical difficulties. Okay, now I'm going to see if I can get back. Excuse me. Okay. Okay, I'm going to try to finish the article. Um, for those who are just popping in, the topic is how to deal with grief. And I was just sharing an article regarding how to deal with that subject. Okay. Okay. Just give me a moment. Okay. And let's see if I can find. Okay. Do not let anyone tell you how they feel or, okay. Or tell you how you, your grief is your own. Okay. I think I already read this. Okay. Now here's an important point. Let me see if I can just move this. Oh shit. Oh. Okay, I think I already shared this part. Look for your physical health. The mind and body are connected. When you're feeling when you're healthy physically, you're better able to cope with emotion. Combat stress by fatigue by getting through enough sleep, eating right now, and exercise. Do not use alcohol or drugs to numb the pain or the grief or live your mood artificially. Now the next thing is plan for grief triggers. Anniversaries, holidays are important milestones can reawaken painful memories and feelings. Be prepared for an emotional wallop and know that it's completely normal. You can plan ahead by making sure that you're not alone, for example, by making your laws, marking your laws in a creative way. This is very important, particularly when you have lost someone that's very close. So what I do is um, I I hold fond memories of my mom to help me to deal with um, her loss. And I'm going to give now. Here are some numbers you can call. Um, in the United States, you can call the Crisis Call Center at 775-784-8090. That's 7745. I'm sorry, 775-784-8090. Okay. Now, if God forbid, God forbid, if you ever thought about deleting yourself, please call the suicide helpline. Okay. And the number is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say a few words in Spanish. Si usted está contemplando quitarle la vida debido del el fallecimiento de un ser querido o terminando un matrimonio o la pérdida de empleo o problemas de su salud, favor a llamar el Suicide Helpline. Y el número para llamar aquí en los Estados Unidos es 1-800-273-8255. De nuevo, 1-800-273-8255. Favor, no trate de quitarle la vida porque eso puede causar muchos problemas para sus seres queridos. Y recuerde que su vida tiene mucho valor. Okay. And we're going to park it here. Okay. Now, what are my takes regarding when it comes to the grieving process? The fact of the matter is, it's something we are going to experience. Okay. It's something we cannot avoid. Okay. What we can do is with the information that's provided and there are other resources there, it can help us to deal better with the grief process and how to deal with the loss of a loved one. Okay. Or maybe the loss of a relationship or a spouse or a friendship, or maybe you had a downturn with your health. Okay. The fact of the matter is, no one is immune to dealing with grief. It comes in many ways and in many forms. Okay. However, hopefully, with what we discussed, will help prepare you to deal with um, the situation when we are faced with. Um, if no one else wishes to join the panel, or as there's no more comments, I'm going to start to wrap this up. Now, my next stream, which will be on Friday night, the subject will be uh, there's truly a male loneliness crisis. Now, the reason why I am discussing this is because there are men that may be experiencing. It could be men who don't know how to approach a female. It could be men that lost a loved one, or many other factors. So we will be discussing this topic. I understand that these topics are constantly um, attracting a great deal of attention. However, these are topics that need to be discussed because the fact of the matter is we're all going to be dealing with the loss of life at some point. It is unavoidable. Okay. Excuse me. I apologize. So just give me a moment. Okay. I'm sorry. Now, so we are going to be discussing that. Now, also, I'm thinking about what's going to be the topics for next week's stream. Okay. This week, I decided to get share topics. Just give me a moment. I apologize. Okay. So starting tomorrow, I'm going to be thinking about the topics that we're going to discuss on next week's stream. This week, we have been dealing with mental health issues. So I'm going to try to move away from that and move into something. Um, let's see that would be beneficial to all of us. Okay. Um, I don't want to spend an overly amount of time talking about mental health issues, but it is important from time to time to discuss these things. Okay. Because we are dealing with it every single day. So it's very important to arm ourselves with the knowledge that we all need in order to be properly prepared. In any case, I do appreciate um, people will be watching this on the playback. Okay. And of course, your comments are always welcome. All that I ask is people, let's be respectable, please. That is all I ask. Let's be respectable, please. Okay. In any case, I just want to thank Don Armando for his comments and also thank all those who watched the stream from the clouds. Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do is the following. Those of you who have already subscribed to the channel, uh, please spread the word about Uncommon Sense and encourage others to check my content. Okay. So what I will do is I'm going to wrap this up. As always, I enjoy sharing my points of view, even if it's in the form of a monologue. So we will be on Friday. I think it's going to be 8:30. Yeah, 8:30. Okay. And of course, the notifications will go out to the same people. So I would close with the following saying. We must do everything possible to minimize our con, um, contact with the mentally and intellectually challenged. Because if we fail to do that, we will be infected by their stupidity and massive insanity. This has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron, wishing all of you a very good night. Take care and peace.